thought I'd set myself a little challenge, as I have so much of this paint left on the palette. I'm just going to use another one of these boards. I'm not going to use any paint brushes. I'm just going to use this or these tools to put the paint down. I'm also going to work landscape as well. So if you've got paint on the palette that you want to use, you can always do something like this and have a bit of a play. You might end up with a complete mess, in which case paint over it, but you might end up with something you like, you never know. So all I'm doing is just dragging the paint onto the canvas. I have quite a few of these, you may not have as many, but I've been collecting them for a while. Whenever I use a card and I finish with it, I just stick it in my stash of cards for painting with. You can create some nice effects actually, you can mix the colour as well. Again, it's quite a sort of childlike, playful way of painting. So I'm going to use my cools first. Creates these really nice smooth areas of colour actually. I might have to do this in 2 stages, so put my cools down first and then put my warms down when it dries. It's a bit tricky when you've got a liquid acrylic rather than a heavy bodied. It's quite hard to get off of the palette with your card. It's actually quite fun to paint with cards. So used to using brushes. You can also use your fingers as well if you really want to. So I might have to just cheat slightly and use a brush because it's hard to get this liquid acrylic up with a card. It's hard to drag it off the palette, and likewise any of the scraps of colour as well. Might also want to just add some different texture. So I'm really not thinking at all about what I'm doing. All I'm doing is just covering the surface of one thing and just trying to use up the excess paint with the other. Seems to be an awful lot of grey. I think I squeezed too much grey out of the tube. So it will look a complete mess at this particular point, but this is just all colour that can then be worked over the top of, and this just stops our paint from going down the sink and being wasted. You may as well use it up. So if you want to cheat like me and use a brush, this is a really nice texture. This is actually a house painting brush of all things. I can actually put some of this silver on here too. So this is very textured because we're using a very thick brush, spreading the paint quite thickly and using heavy bodied acrylic paint, so it will be quite textured. So you can see you can get quite a lot of texture just from the paint you use and how you apply it. So I'm just going to run that over my palette. To pick something up on my canvas here, which is like a lump. So if you do get anything like that, now is the time to remove it while you can. And also, if you have quite thick paint, you might want to just play with some scratching out as well. If you want to create some textured areas, you can. Again, you could collage or paint over the top of this, so you don't need to worry about it, how it looks at this point in time. You just want to create some visual interest. And that's quite thick, so it's probably going to take a while to actually dry. Might want to even swirl it around a bit like this. They make great tools, these skewers. So if you do have some, stick them in your painting area. Right, well, I've used up the cools from my palette. I've got my warms left. So I'm going to go and clean my brushes, clean my spare credit card type things, and then wait for everything to dry.